r/NoSleep. Posted by u/TroncdeNadal. I stumbled upon a town that's stuck in the 1940s. Going outside during monster night is a terrible idea. Hi, Nika here. I'm sure this will come as a surprise to most of you, especially to Eric. Getting used to this internet thing hasn't been easy. We didn't have that back in the 1940s. Back then, computers were only available to important institutions and were just glorified calculators that were super slow and bulky and filled an entire room. I'm writing this using a public computer in a library. I wonder how Eric will react once he finds out I've gained access to his account. Anyways, I'm sure you're here for the story, so I'll continue from where Eric left off, from my point of view, of course. Eric and I frantically roamed the streets, desperately seeking for hiding spots, as we knew the monsters were coming for us. Never could I have guessed that winning the zoo game would have led to running around town for my life in the middle of the night, fleeing from Mayor Fritz's henchmen and the monsters from the monster zoo I had once admired. It was unbelievable how much my life had changed in the 2 days I had spent alongside Eric. It was also surreal. Clara was gone. Gretel and her family were gone. Even if I didn't fully grasp what was going on or why, I knew there was no going back. We came across a streetlight which had a poster slapped onto it. It depicted us, Eric and Nika, or rather, caricaturized versions of ourselves that made us look like some kind of freaky demon kids. Those were the Eric and Nika that Mayor Fritz wanted to sell to the rest of the town. Why? Why is Mayor Fritz doing this to us? What have we done to him? I asked. Nothing. I think he's doing this because he knows we have knowledge, the knowledge about World War II, and he fears our knowledge might be a threat to his power and influence over the rest of the town. That's how dictators work, by restricting knowledge so that people don't know any better. Eric replied. But, I didn't even know World War II was a thing before you told me. And I still don't really know anything about it, I exclaimed. Yeah, but you're with me, and that already makes you a threat in his eyes. He answered. We saw a big feline creature lurking in the distance, one of the monsters, searching for us. We crouched and quietly ran away from the monster, staying as low to the ground as possible. I think we're good, he can't see us, Eric whispered. But then, we heard the monster's roar, which indicated that Eric was wrong. We had been spotted. We sprinted across a long alleyway as the feline rushed towards us at an alarming speed. We turned around a corner and saw a large trash container. We have to hide in there, Eric suggested. Ew, I uttered, disgusted by the trash container, but still reluctantly following Eric's proposal nonetheless. The tiger monster reached the trash container and roamed around the surrounding area, using his senses to try to pinpoint our location as we remained hidden inside the trash container, trying not to move a muscle. The combination of the terror and tension I was feeling alongside our hiding spot's disgusting stench produced a horrible sensation in my stomach that nearly made me pass out. The tiger couldn't see or hear us, so he attempted to smell us, but the garbage inside the container masked our odor, so the beast finally left after wandering around for a few more minutes. We got out of the trash container after making sure the coast was clear. Phew, that was close, Eric uttered. I couldn't stop thinking about the radio broadcast we had heard in Gretel's house, about how we had become outlaws overnight, about Clara. I still remember when I first met Clara, she found me roaming the streets alone and hungry after having come to the town from the Soviet Union. By the way, I've heard it has since been disbanded and the territories that formed it went back to being independent countries like Russia, Belarus, Georgia, Ukraine or Kazakhstan to name a few. I used to live in what is now known as the Russian Federation, or simply Russia. I remember living under a communist dictatorship wasn't the best, despite the fact that my mother and father were bakers and thus worked in the food industry. Getting to eat the required amount of daily meals was rarely ever a guarantee. My parents were against the Bolshevik government and they had supported the White Army in their youth, back in the Russian Civil War, but they were sure to always keep their lips sealed just like millions of other Soviet citizens who lived in poverty and weren't fond of communism, as publicly admitting that could cost you your life. When I left the Soviet Union and moved to the town with Clara, I rejoiced, thinking I would finally get to live a happy childhood in a place that wasn't ruled by a tyrant. If only I had known how naive that thought was. The first year I spent living with Clara was rather awkward. I only knew how to speak Russian back then, so communication between the two of us was a bit tricky. However, we both knew we loved each other and wanted to live with each other despite the language barrier, which we eventually overcame. Every weekend, we would cuddle together on the sofa and I would gently fall asleep by her side as Clara read a book accompanied by the chant of crickets in the summer and the fireplace's hypnotic flames in the winter. Hey, I know this is gonna sound awkward and random. Normally I'd ask Clara for this, But, you know. So, can you hug me? I uttered. Sure. Eric replied. I had clearly caught him off guard. I jumped into his arms and started crying, pouring out the jumble of conflicting emotions I was feeling in the form of tears that slid down from my eyes and into Eric's shirt. Listen, everything's gonna be okay. Eric tried to comfort me. No, it's not. It has already gone horribly. I replied sobbing. I know, but, I promise it's not gonna get worse. Soon, all of this will be nothing more than an unpleasant memory, Eric said. Before meeting you, my life used to be so simple. I went to school and to the monster zoo, I played with the other children and happily lived with Clara, but all of this has made me question whether living in this town is so perfect after all. You've made me even question what year is it. I don't think I want to live here anymore, but then again, where would I go? I said, almost feeling relief after letting all of that out. Nika, I have something to confess. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm a time traveler. I've come here from the 21st century. I had an accident, I passed out and then I randomly woke up in this town in this age. I have no idea how I did it, but if I find a way to go back to the present, I will take you with me and give you a chance to start anew. What do you say? Eric confessed. I tried to find words I could reply with, but words wouldn't have conveyed my reaction properly, so I silently smiled and nodded at him. His story about time travel wasn't easy to believe, but I believed him, because even if he was lying, what else did I have to lose at this point? We continued running around and hiding from the monsters until we reached the outskirts of town. It was an area full of grassy plains and hills. That was as far away as I had been ever since I had moved to the town. A large, tall building could be seen in the distance. What is that building? Eric asked while pointing at it. I think that's the town hall, or in other words, Mayor Fritz's headquarters. I replied. Why would a town hall be located so far away from the actual town? Eric uttered. Maybe Fritz wants to be left alone so people don't see what he does in there. I answered. A large figure appeared in the sky. The bird monster was after us. We had last seen it at Gretel's house, but there was no sign of Gretel or her family. We sprinted across the fields outside the town, but there was no way we could outrun the creature, who unceasingly flew over our heads, probably waiting for us to get tired so it could then strike us from above. We were running away from our flying pursuer in an open field with no hiding spots, so it was pretty much a suicide mission, but our self-preservation instincts forced us to keep going, despite the fact we realistically had no chance. At this point, the only thing we could do was to wait until the bird inevitably caught us, but that didn't happen. Instead, the creature just kept flying around us in circles, almost as if it was giving away our location to someone else. It was then when we caught a glimpse of another monster approaching us, the tall humanoid creature with large, round eyes and a weird trunk for a mouth, emitting an unnerving breathing sound as it marched towards us. We didn't even try to run away when we saw it. There was no point to it anymore, as we were tired and the bird monster was still continuously circling above our heads and would have most likely intercepted us immediately if we had tried to flee. The humanoid monster emitted a mysterious smoke-like substance that quickly spread around the area and engulfed us like fog, making it unable to see anything. Nika, Eric yelled. We could no longer see each other due to the gas. Eric! I'm over here, I yelled back, but Eric did not reply. I then heard a familiar roar. The tiger monster was back. All three monsters had teamed up in order to catch us. Seconds later, I felt its paws pouncing at me and knocking me to the ground and making me lose consciousness. Nika, Nika! I heard Eric whisper to my ear as I slowly woke up and opened my eyes. Eric, what happened? Where are we? I uttered. It wasn't long before I realized we were no longer outside, but indoors, inside a small, dark room. I have no idea. Eric replied.